Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Combat Sports UK. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Westin Wilson. Westin, how are you, mate? How are things going?
Dude, Taylor, I'm doing great, man. Fantastic.
It's great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. We were just talking kind of off camera there that you're currently in Las Vegas for UFC 296. How's the chaos over there?
It's good, man. It's crazy. Last night, I was up late working with Stephen with weight cut and everything. So everything's going really well. He should be on weight here in a very little bit.
Awesome. Happy to hear it. And obviously this will be the past but the future at the same time because of when the interview goes out. But we obviously wish him the best of luck with his fight tomorrow night. But for yourself, you're coming up with your fight against Jean Silva, January 13th. That's going to be, from what it looks like at the moment, the very first fight of the year for the UFC. So that's quite a cool little moniker.
Oh, so they moved me. I was the second fight, so now I'm the first.
I mean, that's what it looks like from the research I did. It seems they jump around a little bit, but either way, one of the first two. So that's quite a cool thing. I mean, is it challenging kind of going through the holiday period, knowing that you've got this one coming up in January? I know you've got a young family as well. Is there challenges that come with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. So it's not the first time I've trained through the holidays. I fought on New Year's Eve. And I was cutting down to 135 back then, so it was bigger. I mean, it's the same weight cut now, but still a big weight cut. And let's see, I've actually fought 6 or 7 times in January over the holidays. So it's actually not a bad time for me to fight. I actually do really well fighting this time of year. But yeah, it does kind of stink not having, full holiday. You're not relaxed the whole time. You constantly get those thoughts that creep in about the fight, and you go silent. So my wife knows though, we've been together for 12 years, going on 13 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
No, going on 12. Mm-hmm. So she knows the whole thing. She knows when I get quiet, what it means and all that. So she's awesome. My kids, they are now at the age where they understand as well, and are very supportive. It's funny, they FaceTime me every hour to check up on me while I'm traveling and stuff like that. So I think the holidays will be fine. At first I was bummed out. I was like, man, I don't get Christmas, I don't get New Year's, this stinks. But it'll be worth it.
Yeah, and I guess when you have obviously your second fight now in the UFC, you can't really turn around and say, "No, I want the holidays," right? You just say, "Yeah, no,
you can't. You just got to kind of go with it." And so that's really what it was I was trying to get on 296 with Steven. There's no, you're not getting on. There's no shot, no chance. Because that's one of our goals is we want to fight together on the same card.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're like, we'll get you on soon though. Don't worry, we'll get you on soon. And then it was all right, you're fighting January 13th, first fight card of the year. And so Steven's on the last fight card of the year. I'm on the first fight card of the year. And so I was so bummed though. I was like, oh man, I don't get Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving. I don't get Christmas. I don't get this. And I wanted to, my brothers are going to be in town. And I was I'm going to be all worried about the fight. I'm going to have to be training the whole time. And, so I went through that, the stages of grief. I went through all the stages of I was sad, then I was angry, then I accepted it, then I was in denial. And then, I mean, this week they just switched out my opponent. And so I was all ticked off about that, and I was all going through the stages of grief again of I guess not the stages of grief. Now it was the stages of anxiety of okay, well, what's this guy gonna do different? And I don't know anything about this guy. And so I've been going through all of that while I've been here in Vegas. It literally got Like it all happened like as I was flying out to Vegas. Like they're like, "You got a
Wow.
new opponent?" And I was like, "Okay." And it was one of those things. It was like, can't really say no. You just have to do it. And so yeah, it's all good. Like I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy, the mix up. And so and I like having a shorter camp anyway. So now I'm looking at it as I'm starting camp over again.
Yeah, and that was kind of the next area I wanted to touch on. I mean, obviously you're down in Vegas at the moment with Stephen. I mean, the silver lining to that is that you and Stephen are kind of getting closer to fighting on the same card, right? So there might be a silver lining that comes out of it. But how are kind of
Yeah.
preparations going so far? I mean, when you do get that change of opponent, how much does that throw you off? How much do you have to kind of recalibrate your training and your preparation?
It's not a ton. The way I strike and the way I stand up is really gonna always be the same. It doesn't matter who they give me and that. This one though, I think I've changed up a few things. Like I
Hmm.
think I want to grapple more with Silva versus Santos. So um, I'm actually going out to Austin to go train with New Wave Jiu-Jitsu. So Danaher, Gary Tonin, my buddy Joe, he's one of their heavyweights out there. The heavyweights for Jiu-Jitsu, not heavyweight MMA. He's like a 185. So I'm gonna be working with all of the New Wave guys on Sunday and
Hmm.
the rest of the week. Um, a lot of opportunities just like arose last minute. It was like, okay, the opponents changed. And then like last minute, my buddy Joe's like, "Hey man, like, do you want to come out to Austin to train?" So I called Coach T and he's like, "No, great idea. We'll be getting back from Steven's fight. So it'll be hard, you know. So I think it's perfect timing for you to go out then and still get your training and get like really high level reps." And so and with the change of opponent, like the focus is changing and uh I think it's good. Like I think that everything kind of happens for a reason and the opportunities present themselves at the perfect time. And my wife was really cool. My kids have been really cool. And they're like, "Yeah, Dad, go ahead, stay out for a whole week and we'll once you get back, we'll celebrate, Christmas and all that." So yeah, it was like I couldn't have planned it better if I tried to orchestrate it myself. Like it was just all coincidental opportunities that arose, and it was like, "Yep, we're gonna do it. Yep, we're gonna do it." And so, yeah, like I said, I couldn't have planned it better.
Yeah, when you mentioned in there kind of the switch in tactic a little bit for this fight going a bit more grappling heavy. I mean, when you go through and you look at both of you guys, you and Gene, it looks on paper to be a striker versus grappler, right? I mean, you've got a lot of submissions on your record, and he's mainly leaning towards the striking. Is that very much how you see it, or do you think it's a good opportunity for you to showcase a bit of your other skills as well? Because we'll talk a little bit about your boxing as well a bit later on. But how do you kind of see it right now?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize like I'm actually an accomplished striker as well.
Hmm.
And the reason why I've gotten so many submissions is I'll hit somebody once or twice, and then they're shooting
Hmm.
takedowns. Um, and my jujitsu is a very good like counter style jujitsu. My striking is very counter style as well. Um, so like it's not like in Harry Potter terms, I'm a Slytherin.
Yeah.
I'm not a Gryffindor. I'm not. And Steve and I, we actually had a podcast where we talked about like fighters based on their Harry Potter house or
Right.
their style and what Harry Potter house they would be in. And I'm 100% like a Slytherin. Like I'm gonna just take any opportunity that comes in the cage. Like I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna like go out and be like, all right, I'm gonna fight and die on my shield. Like I'm like, no, I'm not gonna dictate where the fight goes. I'm just gonna take whatever happens. Like if you give me a neck, great, I'm going to take it. If you give me your chin, great, I'm going to take it. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how I go into every fight is like, do I want to knock him out? Yeah. But like, if the submission's present, I'll take the submission every time. And that's what I've really been doing, up until this point is lately the submission just provides itself sooner than the knockout. So I'm not going to go and like take any unnecessary risk and be like, no, I'm not going to take this submission. We're going to go back to our feet and bang it out. Like, No, I'll just take the submission.
And I mean that's the crossover we never knew we needed, right? Harry Potter and MMA. I think that's fantastic, and I can totally see it now that you've said it, and I'm never going to not see it. Right, I'm going to be watching the card on Saturday, thinking, okay, which house is he in? So that's
Oh, dude, it's the funnest thing ever. Like, it's literally the funnest thing ever as you watch like somebody's fighting style. You got to watch like enough of their fights, like 3 or 4, 5 fights. You'll know what Harry Potter house they belong in.
yeah.
You know, and it's funny because Steven's a Hufflepuff. 100% fights like a Hufflepuff. He's like all buddies with them in the cage, outside of the cage. He's like high-fiving them, everything. And me, I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm not touching gloves. And you know, whatever you give me, I'm gonna take. Yeah, it's funny, like the differences in, but like Steve and I, we have like a very similar striking style, but I'm not like, I'm not nice like that. Like I don't high five. I'll put it this way, I've been cheap shotted too many times, like trying to like touch gloves, that I'm just like, I'm not gonna risk it anymore. It's not that I'm a mean person, it's just I don't like risking it. Like, I've put my hand up to touch gloves and been, you know, overhand like grazing me and everything else. And I'm like, okay, yep, defend yourself at all times.
Take the full turn. Take the full turn to slither and just embrace it. Just embrace it. That is amazing. We
Yeah.
heard it here first. Stephen Thompson is a Hufflepuff. It's absolutely confirmed. So we talked about that last minute change. What do you know about Jean Silva at the moment?
I don't know a lot, man. I only got to see, the only fight I could find is his contender series fight. So I watched that, you know, very dynamic, very athletic, explosive, uh good striker. I think he definitely prefers a striker. Maybe it was just that fight. Um and I think, you know, there's some weaknesses, there's some things that I can expose. I don't like to like focus too much on my opponents anymore. I used to do
Hmm.
that a lot, and then I'd have like over analysis to paralysis. So I kind
Hmm.
of just let the coaches take that now. I'm like, okay, I get a general idea of what they do and how I'm gonna counteract it. Um, but yeah, and like I don't like go full, you know, serial killer mode and like stalk their Instagram and stalk everything they're doing. Like, I used to do that as well. Like, I used to vet
Hmm.
my opponents and like, okay, are they training this day? What did they post on social? Like, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. Like, I've got better things to do. I got kids that I would rather like hang out with and be with. And that stuff, like, it either makes you like, gives you a false sense of confidence, like, oh yeah, I'm out training them, like based on their social media, or it gives you like insecurity and anxiety of where you're like, oh crap, they're doing this and I got to do this and everything else. So I quit doing that. I gave it up, and so I don't know a lot. I don't know where he's from outside of Brazil. I don't know, you know, anything. I just know what he looks like. I know what he likes to do in the cage, and I'm gonna keep it at that. I'm not gonna like find out how many kids he has and if he's married and you
Hmm.
know, I I don't care. We're not doing press conferences. There's no like, I don't need any ammunition or anything like that. Like, we're just gonna fight. We're first fight on the, or second fight, first second fight on the prelims. You know, no one cares. We just go in, and the only way people are gonna care is how exciting of a fight we can make it.
Yeah, it's a very, very grounded mindset, I would say, and it kind of speaks to obviously the gym and the camp that you come from. Kind of talk a little bit about that, because looking at it from the outside, it looks amazing. It looks like such an incredible atmosphere to be a part of. What does that mean to you, and kind of going through that journey, and obviously its impact on your fighting career?
Um, yeah, I've been to a lot of places. Like with work, I've moved, you know, to several different places. And I would say like South Carolina is our home. It's where we want to, you know, set our roots. I've
Hmm.
been there with for 4 years, and it feels like I just moved. Actually, it's 4 years, like almost this week, and it feels like I moved uh there just last year. Like, I like time has flown by. Coach T is like a, you know, a second dad to me. The relationship that we have is really special. I know that like no matter what happens, he's got my back. He's one of the greatest like motivators in the cage. He makes you like wanna like you're like, oh, I'm being a wuss. Like I gotta go in there. Um, there's a story of a guy coming to him in kickboxing like several years ago, and somebody like warned him like, yeah, Coach T, like this guy, he'll quit on you, like all the talent in the world, but he'll quit on you in the middle of the fight if it goes hard. And the first round got finished, and the guy was like, oh, I can't do it anymore. He's like, Coach T, I'm done, I can't do it. Coach T slaps him in the corner. He's like, you either fight this guy or right after this, he's like, if you're done, you're fighting me. And he's like, so those are your choices. You either fight me or you fight this guy. And then he like went in, and he was like, the guy was fighting like some undefeated kickboxer too, and like was brought in to lose. And he went in and he got motivated and whooped up on the guy and everything else. And then that guy ended up becoming a world champion in kickboxing. So yeah, Coach T, he knows how to get, he knows how to get you going. It doesn't matter like if you lost a round, he'll let you know it, and then you go out and you're like, I can't lose it. I can't, yeah, Coach T makes me want to fight better, and that's the important thing is it doesn't matter like what the previous round was. Like I want to go in there and do better. Like I don't want to let him down.
So there's a real kind of family, kind of like a family vibe, like you were saying. You kind of felt straight away that's where you belonged, and a real family feel to it. And obviously, you're there supporting Stephen this weekend. Another thing I wanted to touch on in there was you posted on Instagram a little side by side of you and a certain YouTuber who shall not be named, Mr. Paul. Talk a little bit through that. Talk about your boxing as well. I find that really interesting that you went away and you did your boxing fight. And how was that experience for you? And then just the little bit of salt that you threw out there towards Mr. Paul.
Yeah. So with last year, like I went out to Stephen's fight against Holland, and there was so many 45s and 55s. So like I cut weight and everything. I was like, one of these guys is bound to fall through, and then I can just step up. And like I had all my UFC medicals done, everything like that. Obviously, I wasn't signed at the time, and I was on a really good win streak too, and so I was like, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go as if I'm gonna fight, and so Stephen was like, yeah, come out, and if you don't fight, like, so what, we'll just hang out, yada yada yada, and so I go out as if I'm fighting, and I'm cutting weight all week, and then I realized, like, dude, not a single. There was like 10 or 12 145s and 55s on that card, and so I cut all the way down to 53, to where I was like in striking distance of making 45 or 55, and then I was like, "There's no way somebody's falling through." Nobody fell through, and anyways. I was like super depressed. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna fight. Like, and I had this goal of I wanted to fight, I think 4 or 5 times last year, and so I was gonna be one fight shy. And then I get a random call from a boxing promoter who was my business where I do pay-per-views for combat sports. They were doing a show, and like, hey, we just had a fight fallout at 170. Do you want to box this kid? He's 11-1. And they're like, we think your striking style is good enough that you at least make it an exciting fight. And like, and it's boxing, like, it's not MMA. And so like, it doesn't really count towards like what you're trying to achieve in your life. And so I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Like at the time, like, it was just like, once again, perfect timing. Like I was depressed. I didn't get that short notice call on Stephen's, versus Holland fight, and so I was like, what the hell, it's in 5 days, like we'll do it. And so I go in, and all of a sudden in the back, like I was like so scared. I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm an idiot, like short notice, I could fight, next week or whatever. And I was like, why am I doing this? This is so dumb. And I was like, this kid's like he's gonna smoke me. Like he's 11-1 as a boxer. I have never boxed. Like I didn't even have an amateur boxing career. Like I never boxed at all. And every time I had like box like against guys, like I always got whooped. And so I was like, oh, this is so stupid. And Coach T and Coach T and I had Steve's brother Tony in the corner as well. And they're like, man, you just gotta go in there. Like, there's no turning back, you know. And I'm looking for like any excuse I can. I'm like, oh, dude, my back is spasming. I'm like, oh, Coach T actually, like, as he was wrapping my hand, he accidentally cut my thumb. Uh, and so I was like, I was like, oh man, it's just a sign. And so I was just like, I was just in my head, so nervous, so scared, like just the biggest wuss ever. And then I like walked to the ring and I'm like, okay, it's happening. Like we're doing this. And then first round, I get in the corner and coach, he's like, all right, you won that round. He's like, but don't like he's like yelling at me. He's like, quit being a wuss though. Like you got to give it to him harder. And I'm like, okay, you know. And he's like, you could get him out like in this next round if you want. Dude, I ended up cutting this dude on this eyebrow, broke his nose. That dude's face was just like, dude, he had two black eyes. He had two stitches. He had to get two sets of stitches. Like it was a bloody mess. I ended up winning. And here's the other crazy thing. My very first boxing match was a 6-rounder. Like nobody debuts with a 6-round boxing match. Nobody. And I felt the rounds 5 and 6, I was dying. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, but the 5-day notice, like I've never gotten out of the first round in MMA in for who knows how long. And I was just dead. I was like, oh my gosh, man. And every round, coach, he's like yelling at me. He's like, come on, you won that round too. He's like, all right, next round. And he's like, quit. Like I crossed my legs at one point. He's like, quit crossing your legs. He's like, you don't look tough doing that. Like he's like, this is like belittling me and then like telling me I'm doing a good job at the same time. And so I'm like, oh, I just got to go in there and do it. But it was like, honestly, it was one of the biggest confidence boosters of like being able to go in, box, win, dominate like one of the top guys in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And not even in my weight class. And like, so that really set us up for the next year. And we're like, we're going to do it this next year. And we did, you know, we put a plan together, put on some size, worked on some athleticism. And yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. Like the team that we have, the coaches that we have, Upstate Karate, my strength conditioning coach, wrestling coach, like all of them are so good. And we're so in sync that, you know, it's just that consistency just breeds success. And we got a couple other guys that are coming up, and I think, you know, in the next year or two, you'll see them in the UFC and shoot, I think they're better than I am.
That's quite a statement. Quite a statement. I mean, that's a hell of a story as well. It sounds like a lot of fun. Like it just sounds like you guys are out there having fun, and then you kind of get belittled and brought up when you need to be. I mean, I'm conscious of your time. So kind of final thing from my side is just to take a look at the division. Obviously, you've got Volk and Ilya going at it in, I believe it's February. How do you kind of see that one going? Do you think there's this narrative?
I think Volk is the man. I think with a full training camp, Volk's hard to beat. Mm-hmm. So Ilya's impressive, but I don't know what tools Ilya has that Volk can't shut down. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving it to Volk.
Giving it to Volk. And if there was a kind of fantasy matchup for you in that top 15, obviously if things go well with your career in the UFC, who'd you kind of most like to fight in that top 15 at the moment?
Top 15 of the UFC. Not any animosity or anything. I think it'd be really fun is Bryce Mitchell. I think Bryce Mitchell's a fun kid. Tough as nails. His grappling is so good. Like I would love to test myself against Bryce. Bryce would be fun. Not like I said, no animosity, nothing like that. Like Bryce was actually supposed to come out and train with us a couple of weeks ago. I don't know him. I've never met him personally, but I just think Bryce Mitchell is just a fun, cool dude that like it would just be one of those fights where there's no animosity, there's nothing like you know, we would just go in and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that would be a really, really fun fight. So final words over to you, mate. I mean, any shout outs or anything in particular that you want to mention just as we wrap up?
Yeah, you know, sponsor, Built Bar. They're a fantastic company, makes the best protein bars on the market. So they've been super awesome. Go check them out. And then yeah, just Upstate Karate, man. It's a phenomenal place. If you're not following Steven's YouTube channel, you should be. And we've got some other guys coming up, so make sure to follow and watch, some of my teammates.
Yeah, the Stephen's YouTube is a lot of fun, as is everything you guys do. So that's Westin Wilson bringing in the new year. First or second fight, we'll wait and see. But it is against Jean Silva. We hope no more changes on the 13th of Jan. So pray for this guy over the holidays. Remember what he's going through as you guys are sticking into your turkey and roast beef and everything else. Westin, it's been a real pleasure, man. Thank you so much for your time, and the best of luck with your fight from everybody at Combat Sports UK.
Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and talk.
No, you're welcome, man.